watching Head to Head. This is Antonina Antosha with UATV. Ukraine's battle against corruption has been long and hard. Enlisted with the support from powerful international partners like IMF and the EU, Kyiv has achieved success in introducing a number of anti-corruption measures. However, Ukraine's government failed to implement the most crucial amplifications. Joining us in the studio today is Daria Kaleniuk, the head of the AntiCorruption Center. Hello and thank you for coming.
Hello, thank you for inviting.
So, as the statistic says, Ukraine unfortunately failed to implement 40% of the before discussed measures of anti-corruption reforms. What are they?
First of all, Ukraine still didn't establish the AntiCorruption Court, which has to hear all cases investigated by new anti-corruption agency, National Anti-Corruption Bureau. So this agency was also a requirement of the IMF and of the EU. It is there, it is established, but the agency reveals grand corruption, collects evidence, then sends this evidence to courts which are not reformed. So we cannot expect that these non-reformed courts will issue quickly and non-biasedly decisions in these cases.
If I'm not mistaken, Anti-Corruption Court was the main issue that IMF stated before granting Ukraine the funding. So,
Anti-Corruption Court is now a benchmark. So it means that Ukraine promised to the IMF that by June 2017, which already passed, Ukrainian Parliament will adopt the law on Anti-Corruption Court, and that this law will allow to select judges independently through the panel of independent experts, including internationals there.
Since that hasn't happened, does it mean that IMF is going to stop the financial support of Ukraine?
I think that there are high risks that this conditionality will transform into so-called prior action. And this is the condition of the IMF. If it is not implemented, IMF board will not even meet to discuss the next tranche for Ukraine. So I doubt Ukraine will receive the next $1 billion loan promised by IMF without establishing such a court.
Okay, Anti-Corruption Court not established. What else has Ukraine failed to do so far?
Ukraine failed to verify a single asset declaration of public officials. So while we already have the registry of e-declarations of public officials, there was also a requirement from the EU merely to start a verification of information there. And there is a liability for false statements and for illicit enrichment. So a motivation for officials to provide truthful information is simply to avoid criminal liability, which can be imprisonment for 2 years. But the agency which was established specifically for this purpose, another agency, not Anti-Corruption Bureau, but Preventive Commission, for more than half a year since the e-declarations were filled, failed to analyze and verify a single asset declaration. And that's a big problem. Moreover, this agency turned to be the agency which started intimidation and selective persecution of some officials who are critical and who are vocal in their criticism of senior management of the country.
That is really interesting. Could you dwell on that a little bit more? Could you specify?
Absolutely. There were a few cases. One case was against Sergei Leshchenko, the current member of parliament who used to be investigative journalist. So there were 2 cases on him developed by an APC, Preventive Commission. The one was about him receiving $300 fee for lecturing at the university. Another was about him obtaining a discount for buying an apartment in Kyiv. So comparatively to other asset declarations which reveal luxurious collection of cars, of houses, it's really strange why an APC focuses on this case, which is obvious that there will be no perspective of these cases. So in regards to Leshchenko, an APC didn't need even the regulation to start verifications of asset declarations. But for all others, like Prime Minister, President, they need a declaration, a regulation, and they can't agree so far to agree on the conclusion of such a verification.
Yeah, it looks like a double standard there.
Absolutely.
In your opinion, what should be done to fully implement the anti-corruption reforms in Ukraine?
First of all, the quickest way to do that is to have a president and majority in the parliament who have political will to do that. Unfortunately, we don't have such a political will. But the success story and the good news is that there is a way to generate this political will. And this is the reason why we developed such a monitoring tool which monitors the implementation of anti-corruption conditionalities of foreign partners. Because if IMF funding is linked to very specific anti-corruption steps, if the EU support is linked to very specific anti-corruption steps, and if they are in the synergy with the demands of the civil society, there is a powerful leverage to generate the political will of the president, of the majority of the parliament, and of the government. Therefore, we highlighted all these conditionalities which are in the documents between Ukraine and IMF and the EU, and we showed what was done in 3 years. But another reason why we did this mapping tool is because we are observing many attempts to roll back the reform. So all that 60% achievement of implementation of anti-corruption conditionalities is yet not irreversible. And
is this because Ukraine already got the visa-free regime and got the biggest part of the tranches from the IMF?
That's one of the reasons. The West is losing its leverage over Ukraine. So, and for majority in the parliament who are now threatened with National Anti-Corruption Bureau, who is trying to investigate and prosecute their peers, it's kind of a question. Okay, so we ticked the box. We established NABU, we established asset declarations, we've got what we were promised, visa-free regime, billions of
So why not stop now, right?
Why not to kind of roll back it a little bit? We didn't mean to implement that. We just wanted to tick the box.
Is there a chance that they will reverse it after all?
There is a big chance. And this is our priority for this year, to protect what already was achieved. And right now we are witnessing the attempt to dismiss the NABU director through appointment of very loyal auditors. There is a legal way, one legal ground to dismiss NABU director as soon as possible, faster than his 7-year term. And this is the negative result of the external audit. This audit has to be implemented by 3 auditors. One appointed by government, one by parliament, another one by president. So for half a year, we are witnessing attempts to appoint very loyal auditors who can be controllable. Officials refrain from appointment of foreign experts who investigated corruption abroad. This was the requirement of the IMF. IMF told, okay, listen guys, we want foreigners who investigated corruption in foreign anti-corruption investigative agencies to conduct audit of NABU. But Ukrainian authorities decided, okay, we don't want foreigners.
Maybe we can skip that part, right?
Yeah, and the problem is that tomorrow Parliament has all chances to vote for another Ukrainian candidate for a NABU auditor, and at the end we will have 3 Ukrainians who might very quickly issue a negative conclusion of NABU audit. And in August already, we might forget about independent NABU.
Well, let's hope that it doesn't happen. Thank you so much for enlightening us. That was Daria Kaleniuk, head of Anti-Corruption Center. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.